We're getting set up here. It's a pleasure to introduce another friend right now. We're moving on. First of all, I want to let you know that Sponsorship Matters is also happening concurrently upstairs, so if it's something you wanted to attend, those sessions are going on right now. But you should stay here because the next group of people are quite fascinating, and the topic is really important. We're heading into the world of alternative revenue streams, tackling major issues such as how can artists and labels realize alternative revenues, leveraging their digital content and platforms, and what is the most potential revenue stream, promising potential revenue stream from brand relationships. We've talked a lot about branding. This is really important. The Pepsi sponsorship here has been very important for the bands that have been brought in to perform. We have these licensing opportunities, live performances, and they'll also inform us of what are the mistakes artists need to avoid in the digital world. So there's a mega lineup of exciting, experienced professionals. Please put your hands together and warmly welcome my good friend and fellow Los Angeles resident, Vince Bannon, the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships and the Evangelist for Getty Images. I'm so much better without cue cards.
Thank you so much.
This is a good man. Listen to him. Okay.
Hi, everybody. Hello. Ah, great. Anyways, I want my wonderful panelists to come up now, please. This should not be called alternative. That's first and foremost, it's one of the biggest mistakes that I love the panel and I love the people that are on it, but this should really look at these people that are coming up, that I'm gonna introduce, are literally the people that have the platforms or have the content or have the ways, the means to do something unbelievably fantastic. Please, all grab a seat. This is all about that. The future's so bright, you have to wear shades. And I'm gonna start with one comment. I was at a one-day thing of a very big entertainment firm in Los Angeles. And a lot of people showed up that were older school music executives from other companies and such. And they were very disappointed in what the internet has done to their business. And they had charts and everything else. And it was showing the decline and how the internet all like ruined their lives and all that. And the lead lawyer there said, what I do is I work for artists. Artists pay me because I do their deals for them. All I do is I look at them and make sure they're good. But he said this, the big thing he said was that my artists today are so much more wealthier than they were in the 90s. And that's the reality of what's going on today. And looking at what is the modern music business. And what the modern music business is today, it's a media business, a multimedia business. And you look at the biggest artists in the world, they know how to use all these wonderful people in the best way. So let me introduce them all. We have Chee from Spotify. Fantastic that he's here. Jenny from Twitter, all the way from Sydney. We have Dev, my wonderful good friend from all the way from Bombay here. It's fantastic, from Universal Music, all right? Stuart Waters from Nightlife Entertainment, another Aussie up here. And then Christophe from San Francisco, from YouTube. And each one of them have an unbelievable story of what is happening, what they can do, what they can provide, and it's really, really exciting. So I'm gonna let them speak for themselves and introduce them what they do. Chee, you can start with you.
Hi, my name is Chee Meng. I am the Director of Label Relations for Spotify here in Asia. I work on a day-to-day basis with the entire industry across the whole ecosystem.
Excellent. Jenny.
Hi everyone, so I'm Jenny. I'm from Twitter Australia. I'm the head of music and entertainment. I had about 15 years experience creating and producing top TV shows around the world, and I saw how social media and specifically Twitter was changing the TV and the music landscape, and thought it was time to get my head around that and go over to what some people used to refer to as the dark side and is now the positive side, I think. So yeah, that's me.
Hi, I'm Devraj. I run Universal Music for South Asia. And I actually do what Vince very eloquently started the panel with, is that we actually live in a world where it's no longer just about the label and the music, but it's actually running a multimedia conglomerate where you do all of these things that we're going to discuss today. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you all.
Excuse me. Hi there, I'm Stuart from Nightlife. We're a premier background music company. We handle music video, ambient visual and audio in public performance situations. So all the music you hear coming out of speakers, that's the kind of stuff that we do. We curate according to our venues, their brand. We make sure that the right music is playing in those venues so that it's a richer experience for the people that are in there. We've been around for about 26 years and we paid out millions of dollars over the last 26 years, and it's just another great revenue stream. It's not an alternative, it's another great revenue stream. And we see it also as a great promotional platform as well. It's hard to rise above the noise out there, and we're constantly playing new content as well as back deep catalogue as well.
And I'm Christophe. Hi, everybody. I look after global music partnership for YouTube, basically focusing on 3 areas: label relationship, artist relationship, as well as publisher relationship. And we just turned 10 this month, so incredibly proud of the achievement we reached over the past 10 years, past decade.
Excellent. Well, this panel, right, is literally where a lot of people now are either discovering or finding out about artists, right? That these platforms are available to everybody in some way to do something really unique, right? I work for Getty Images. We're one of the largest licensors of all visual imagery in the world, right? In fact, why don't I do this? Why don't I do a selfie right now and I'll send it to my office, right? So I can have this go up right now and I'll make each and every one of these guys famous, right? But anyways, the thing is now, right, is you look at the successful artists now, it's a global thing. All these people right here have the ability to put your media, your music on their platforms, right, and get it out to the globe, right? And the thing is this, there's no, like, say, really short or quick path to do something, but it's about you doing something really unique with these platforms. And each and every one of these people have had really great experiences on breaking artists or on having people find and discover, new music. I mean, Christophe, right now, you look at what's going on in YouTube, right? And the fact that our wonderful host here, Jasper Donut, right, has been doing these YouTube festivals where there's been this enormous amount of discovery on finding the next artist and, using a very sort of visual platform to discover something.
Yeah, this is YouTube Fan Fest, and as a matter of fact, this is the 3rd edition, and we're incredibly proud to, be at the origin of this. And it started here in Singapore, and it went way beyond APAC. We are now doing a Fan Fest in a bunch of other countries here, but for the first time a month ago in Canada. And guess what? Like, we were expecting 5,000 people to show up. Well, we had more than 3x that number coming up, and it's really, really powerful. So that's one of the ways that we're focusing on to just show, our support to the creator community, whether musicians or music creators or not. It's really, really powerful. And it's working really well. We're very proud of that.
Excellent. I'm going to go to our wonderful female person on the staff here, on our wonderful panel, and Twitter. I mean, all the great stuff that's going on there, Periscope, all this, it's fantastic. Tell us what's happening there these days.
Yeah, I mean, definitely music is driving the most conversation on Twitter, and that's globally. And I think it's really important that people understand that the most followed people on Twitter are musicians. So we know the power of music on Twitter, and we know that it has a direct result in ticket sales and discovery and everything. And I think, we're really expanding in video, obviously, as you mentioned, Periscope, live streaming video, but also we came out with the audio card earlier this year, which streams audio as well. And I do think it's important to note that I don't view anyone up here as competition. I think we all work together, and I think that everybody should be using all platforms, and we can all help expand reach and expand followers. And YouTube is a great example. Like, we just did a huge campaign with a bunch of YouTube stars on Twitter, because YouTube stars are massive on Twitter. And I think that there's a huge benefit to working with all of us.
Well, one of the things I'll say, right, like, I'm a big fan of everybody that's on this panel right now, and I'm a big fan of obviously Spotify and streaming services, and the one thing that I really want to say is the music community's got to really go behind everybody here, right? And the one thing I really want to say, right, is, and I've said this to some of the people here on the panel, is we really, we have Netflix in the United States, right? And Netflix is, is a wonderful service where my son consumes an enormous amount of cartoons and stuff, and my wife likes the shows, House of Cards and all that. And the really interesting thing is you never see a situation where, like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie are pulling their content from it because they don't think they're, it's a value. And the interesting thing is it is going to this kind of world, and really good things are happening in this world. And Chee, point at some stuff that you can literally say that Spotify has done really well, and that you personally have been involved in and seen and experienced it.
Mm-hmm. I think for a start, as an artist, when you look at your work, it's no longer a domestic market that you're looking at, or even a regional market. With a service like Spotify, you truly are looking at a global platform. That money reach of 60 million users that you have is out there. So the way you're going to look at it is, instead of isolation of, whether it's recording or whether it's tour or merch or, all the different silos, you should kind of look at it as a ecosystem. Now the challenge really is for the artist or the creator to look at how you unlock the full value of a user, or of a Spotify user. You can think about it, as taking a journey, through discovery. You spoke a lot about discovery, how you actually, through a service like Spotify, where you have access to 30 million songs, and you're constantly discovering new music or new artists that you may have never heard before. Now, on the surface, then you actually get to use the different features, whether it's related artists or recommendations, you discover more. It's a virtuous cycle that you go. And then how do you then make that connection, through follows, through playlists that the artist get curated to kind of understand a little better, you make a connection. And finally, then how you then validate. I think Ed Sheeran put it really, really well when he said, when he put his music on Spotify, it allows him to tour, it allows him to go all over the world to play shows that he wouldn't ever have thought of.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I think that the key really is to kind of look at it from a holistic approach on an entire ecosystem, and you don't necessarily need to check all the touch points, just to make sure what works for you and focus on that.
Dev, how's it been going? I first met Dev when I went over to Bombay, and I was blown away by his excitement and his thrill of discovering artists actually on YouTube and such, right? And the Indian market is really exciting. Why don't you talk and tell us a little bit about what's going on?
So from a universal point of view, the Indian market is really at the cusp where, so I have a 16-year-old son now, and a 9-year-old daughter. India is and has been forever almost 100% Indian film, what we call Bollywood, right? In the last couple of years, we're now seeing that kids no longer only listen to Bollywood. They do consume Bollywood, but suddenly you have 10% and 20%, and those numbers really growing, where they're also listening to international music, they're following indie bands, they're doing all of that, thanks to YouTube, Twitter, everyone else. That's really working. So what we did in our business quite a while ago, actually, we created a system where the label sat in the center of our universe, where you would just make curating, discovering, creating, and disseminating music. But we had almost 50% of our business come from everything else. We have a thriving live business, because we know that while in a country like India, people are not really dying to pay money, but people are dying to pay to come to see their artists play. So we have a full-fledged live business vertical within the business. I mean, we almost do 500 gigs a year. We have a music merchandising business under a Bravado license. We're doing branded content solutions for music. And these are not small numbers anymore. So what we're actually doing is giving an artist a universe where he doesn't have to go anywhere else. From here, he can work with YouTube happily, he can work with Spotify, Twitter, Facebook, whoever it is. But what we're doing is we're sitting at the center and giving him a platform, which is now slowly morphing into a technology platform that actually allows them to ingest all the content into this platform and spew it to the entire world at large. So there may be some young kids who are completely YouTube friendly, and Christophe and Bannon and everyone else back home knows them, because they're actually literally, they become stars in like 6 months and a year because they were born as YouTube stars. You have the age-old guys who've been around for a while and now using technology. So if you put all of it together, wins. I think as a country, that's where we're going. We're becoming a multimedia entertainment company. We're no longer just a music label anymore. So I see that as the natural transformation of our business. We're pushing it with all our might, all our resources, all our energies and money. And I think in the next couple of years, this is going to become, common stance, really.
Excellent. Stuart, let's talk about nightlife entertainment and the role that you play in getting music out there and discovery, and how's it going for you guys?
Well, I think if you look at the background music sector internationally, you have a really huge catalogue of content that's being exploited and can be pushed out into public performance spaces where people are. So it's taking the music to them all the time. Where we come into play is that there's a lot of catalogue represented up here. Certainly there's a lot of videos on YouTube. There's 40 million songs or 30 million songs on Spotify, but where we come into play is that we're curating content. So we are finding the content that's already is at everyone's fingertips and then distilling it down to about 40,000 tracks, really. So we're working with what we think is the best songs for that public performance environment. By doing that, you're creating an opportunity for that song to rise outside of a broader catalogue and actually then not only earn better money, but connect with the people that it's meant to reach. So in terms of what we do as a business, we're identifying the demographic of our client. So we have 2,500 clients in Australia, from really big pubs down to small cafes and restaurants to gyms, to fitness centres, for example. So we're putting the songs that fit into those spaces and making sure that they fit that demographic, so that the person who's going into the branded venue that they know and trust, they're walking into that venue and they're going, yep, this is the music that I like, and this is what I want to hear. We also have technology interface that is reaching our customer's customer. They're the guys that actually make the decisions around what the music is that they want to hear. It's not us. We're not the guys that say, you should listen to this. It's our clients' customers that are giving us the feedback. So we're actually making sure that it's the right content, so it increases the value of the song. So that song is infinitely more valuable, both in economic terms, but also in publicity terms. There's that old adage that, you've got to hear a song 12 times before you actually know what the name of the song is and who the artist is. So I think we fit into that mould as well. I mean, it's harder to hear songs on radio these days because a lot of the songs are, there's only, in Australia anyway, we have maybe 12 to 15 new songs added a week on commercial radio. We're adding 80 to 90 a week, and they're being played across all those venues, and we're probably reaching about 3 million people. So it's a really important platform in terms of being able to get promotion, but also get paid for it. There's very little you have to do, and that's the worldwide over. There's a lot of background music companies around the world. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. A lot of people overlook it. We just say, I think it's a really important place that people should be spending a bit more time looking at their background music providers in the territories they're in, check the deals, most certainly, and making sure you're getting the right deal, and service them like their radio station. Or in our case, we're TV and radio, because we do music video as well. So it's about creating those sort of dynamic spaces that are going to work for our customers and their customers.
Fantastic. Jenny. I'm going to Jenny. You said something really cool to me earlier, actually, about a campaign that Coldplay did on Twitter, right? So this is really interesting, right? You sit there and you say, well, this is not only for new artists, but like say very established artists right now are literally using everybody up here in unique and different ways, right? Because they get it in the sense that they can do something that puts them into a different limelight. Tell me about the Coldplay thing that you guys did.
Yeah, so first I'd say, I think a lot of times people think that Twitter only works with the big stars, so the Katy Perrys and the Taylor Swifts and the Coldplays, but emerging artists are incredibly important to us as well. So while there are amazing campaigns like the Coldplay one I mentioned, there's just as many amazing campaigns that we do with emerging artists as well, because they are incredibly important to us. But the Coldplay example I think was important because a lot of times I talk to artist management and record labels and they say, you know, well, this is a great campaign idea, but, you know, artist X doesn't have that amount of time to do that. And I always say, well, there's so many things you can do where you don't actually need the artist to physically be involved. And one of the reasons why I think the Coldplay one's a good example is we did a campaign last year in the UK where they hid their song lyrics, which obviously they already had. So Chris Martin handwrote a bunch of song lyrics, and he hid them around London. And then Coldplay tweeted out clues every day as to where these lyrics were. And people went crazy and running around London to try to find these lyrics. And whoever found the lyrics got tickets to a show or, you know, a message from Coldplay. They got something personal in return. So all it required from an actual member of Coldplay was about 2 minutes a day to send, you know, a couple of tweets. Yet it had a huge effect. It rewarded the fans. It obviously got a ton of press globally. So it was a great example of a campaign that was incredibly effective, but required very minimal amount of time from the actual artist.
You know, in the United States, right, say, music kind of left television in the sense that it went to game shows like The Voice and American Idol and such. So it really has been YouTube that sort of picked up this interesting thing of like now broadcasting like, say, Coachella, right? Which is brilliant because then people can see, you know, really artists in their premiere sort of live festivals. Like, how's that been working out for you?
It's been really successful. So indeed, we've been live streaming Coachella for the past 5 years, and we hope to continue to do this, you know, for the foreseeable future. But I think it goes back to the point that we were making before. I mean, all these platforms, we know, you know, what we are about is bringing more ways to artists to interact and engage with their fan base, with their audience. And the audience is now global. We bring the world to your door. And, you know, again, you know, as far as YouTube is concerned, you know, we have over 1 billion unique visitors coming to the platform every month. And 80% of the traffic is coming outside of the US. And APAC and Asia Pacific is, you know, one of the fastest growing regions here. We just, you know, launched in Thailand about a month ago. And so there's a lot of happening. And again, if you're, you know, it requires a lot of work, but literally, you know, the world is here for the artists to create, to engage, to have that dialogue. And I think the other thing I want to say is I think it goes beyond just the music, as we were saying before, Dev, right? I mean, if you really want to interact, if you really want to engage, it's not just about putting up the video with the song. It's about having a dialogue, talking about you know, having that exchange to the point that the fan actually then use your content, your work, and share. You know, it's about sharing. I was at a conference about 3 weeks ago now in New York called Brandcast, and John Green, who's, you know, a YouTube creator, a popular YouTube creator, but also an author of The Fault in Your Stars, was saying, I don't care if people watch me or read me. I care about people that love me. I want people to love the stuff I do. And the way we see this on the platform is really through this engagement. It's like people, you know, doing covers, for instance, and sometimes also like taking the content and doing their own video. And really, if you look at, you know, another example I'd like to mention here is Uptown Funk. It's been really successful. So you have the sound recording and the video that's doing over 600 million views alone. But then, you know, the success of that video was really down to that engagement again, where the second phase after the release was really people doing covers, and, you know, including YouTube creators. And these guys have like 1, 2, 3, 4 million subscribers. So it goes really well. It goes really quick, and the word spreads. And then the third phase was really like people doing their own version of the actual song. There was this high school video that was really popular that, you know, did over 12 million views. And so there's a lot of stories like this that every year we see and you know, we really encourage. So it goes beyond just the music, I guess.
Yeah, in what we're seeing now, and it's really interesting where, say, 14, 15 years ago when Napster came out and iTunes came out, the music really went down to, like, say, an Excel sheet, right? So title, the song, how many minutes, and then we really lost the visual element of it, right? In the United States, MTV kind of took the videos off and really started doing programming instead of like the whole visual element of it. And one of the kookaroo reasons why I'm up here on this panel is I work with so many artists, really with their management companies and with a lot of labels, and actually I work with a lot of the people up here on their on their visual presentations of what they do with artists or the stuff they can use to create to make themselves really visual. And a big point, and we were talking about this before we came on this wonderful stage, was if you look at what is now 51 years ago, the Beatles going on Ed Sullivan, the way that literally, say, Brian Epstein had the way they looked and all that. Now, they had great music behind them, but they used this aggregate called the Ed Sullivan Show to put them, in the stratosphere in the United States, right? And I use this sort of thing where, Daft Punk, right, in the same sense, right, because they're in the helmets and all that, but they are a very visual type band and have made brilliant videos and great work. They've now and made a great record in the way that they really worked with the visuals and everything else that they've done in their clips. They've become this massive, international act. What is Spotify doing in that sort of sense of multimedia right now, Chee?
Right. Actually, you raised something really cool. When I just want to also add on what Jenny said earlier is that this global platform is not only for the Coldplays of the world. Closer to home in Asia, when you look at the Korean pop music industry, it's massive. It's traveling out of Korea. It's traveling beyond Asia now. You'll be surprised that, the bands, we have a flagship playlist called K-pop Daebak. Daebak means awesome, awesome K-pop. And you'll be surprised, actually half of the traffic is actually coming beyond Asia. It's coming from as far as Mexico, Latin America, Brazil. We spoke about Brazil and how we, as a service, will actually help the artists plan their tour routes, to different cities. We spoke about the Foo Fighter project, which was amazing, and likewise, helping the artist community to understand how we do that. And to your point about visuals, again, that's one of the critical success of why K-pop travels so well, beyond the language. It's highly stylized. It's very, very visual. And I think the connection to the fans is beyond the audio experience. It's also the visual experience. That's why on the surface itself, it's actually critical. You actually see a lot of the images that we use, a lot of them coming from Getty as well. How we actually present the content in a very holistic, full experience. Yeah.
Excellent. And Dev, you come from a country that has had an enormous, successful, film industry, one that outshines Hollywood now, right? How is that impacting you and your artist and your marketplace?
So like I said before, I don't think Bollywood is ever going to go away.
Yeah.
It's only growing in some strange way. It is. I mean, because the kind of music is changing. It's more contemporary. It's far more contextual. But what's happening at the same time is that this new generation of audiences that are growing up, and these are absolutely young, brand new artists who've just been born out of YouTube, or the really successful ones. I mean, we had two examples last year, exactly to demonstrate this. We had a young little kid called Shraddha Sharma, who actually became famous because she used to put her videos on YouTube from a little bedroom, and we discovered her way, way back. And we really worked with her, and suddenly in less than 2 years, her social footprint is as large as not the top Bollywood guy, but the number 2, number 3 guy, which is insane. I mean, it's just in another world a few years ago that wouldn't be possible. That happens at one level, and massively thanks to this platform. Established artists who've been around for 20 years, 20 plus years. We had a song last year that actually became so big that it became the second most viewed song on YouTube and Vivo last year. So there was song number 1 was this Bollywood song. Song number 2 was our song, non-film, nothing to do. In fact, that song is now getting backward integrated into film as we speak. So I think for us, the visual medium is very, very important. But I think what's more important is what you're doing with that visual medium.
Yeah.
It's not just about how you use Twitter or how you use YouTube or what you do with the platform. It's how intelligently you use it. It's not what you do with it. It's not really not what not to do. It's what to do that you know is great and to do that really well. And the ones who have that vision are actually excelling. And we're seeing people, there are people who are insanely smart at Twitter. Like they really get it because it's a rather intelligent medium. You have to know how to use it. Different with Facebook. But with YouTube and every other platform, if you know that you're good at this one thing, and this is why you're successful, if you use that smartly, you're okay. And we're seeing successes every single day. So the point is, it's not only about the song anymore. It's song plus plus.
Yeah.
It's the visual layer. It's what you're putting in it. It's how you're marketing it. It's how you're packaging it. If you get all of that right, that is what, of course, I mean, not to take away the point that a good song is a good song is a good song is a good song. That's never going to go away, right? Because a shitty song with the greatest packaging is still going to die at the end of the day. But if you get these layers right, we're seeing enormous amounts of success come. And I think video is becoming more and more and more important. I mean, just at lunch, I met a colleague for the first time, actually, strangely, we're in India, and he showed me this new technology they're developing called video machine or something. So normally, what would you do? A normal YouTube creator would sit with a flip cam or a handy cam or, someone would professionally shoot them. This is a software, Christophe, that you just, punch your song in, and it randomly picks images from everywhere, rights cleared, and it creates your own video. It creates your own lyric video. So what a normal human being would take a week to do and edit it or some sort of it can actually create something in seconds. Imagine what that kind of technology, and it's all technology at the end of the day, that's going to do to the future of music, these artists, irrespective of whether they're big or not. So the ease of technology making the song plus level sexier and sexier is where I think the future is going to go. And that really has no standing of whether it's an established Bollywood actor or a YouTube star or somebody who's been around. It's just about the right use and the right balance of technology. If you're able to do that well, I think you'll be a winner.
So I want to go to one other area, right? And it was really funny. It was a taboo area, and I'm going to let anybody, I'm going to open this to the floor, right? And I'll give you a little background. So a friend of mine did this really big tour of where all the sort of the Grateful Dead knockoff bands came from, like Fish and Blues Travelers. It was called the Horde Tour, right? And he actually went to the fans and he said to them, wonder if we got brands involved. And it blew his mind because these bands were the bands that sort of emulated the Grateful Dead and all that, and they were just bell bottoms and fringe jackets and long hair and all that sort of stuff, and jam bands. And the kids all came out 100% positive on using brands. And the reason they said brands, right, is that it would make the ticket prices cheaper, right? Or bring more quality to the festival, right? So we're now seeing this adaptation now, right? That brands are a really beneficial way. And obviously with artists, putting their music into sync and into commercials and that. Anybody here want to pick up where I'm going with brands? Stuart.
Well, I guess from our perspective, our clients are brands, brands in themselves. So, we deal with, for example, some of our client base might be Virgin Active gyms. They're a brand.
Yeah.
And they want really good music in their venues because they want people to come in, work out, take their headphones out, listen to the music. Because they're getting that right music in there, as a brand, they're willing to pay more for it. We charge probably 10 to 20 times more than any other type of background music service in the world. And it's because we're absolutely matching that content. And so I think the brand thing is critical. The more you can align the music to the right brand, the more value it's going to bring to the equation, and the more of that money's going to trickle down. It makes it one of those songs infinitely more valuable. And again, music video as well. Yeah. Music video and other content, as we use, so in the gym sector, when there's not a music video playing on the screen, we've got people doing chin-ups or, working in Venice Beach or climbing or doing parkour or whatever. And all of that stuff, by drilling it down into matching the brand, becomes, it elevates everything to the top. So yeah, I agree.
Excellent. Christophe, right? The role, because, right, your revenue is really based on is an ad-supported model, right? It must be like unbelievable for what you get to see looking at brands on YouTube.
Right. So while we always looking at ways to increase, monetization and bring on new revenue opportunities to the artists and the label partners, brands at the core of the business. It's all about users, partners, content, and advertisers, and it's really the core of our business. Right now, we're seeing tremendous growth. Partner revenue is increasing 50% year over year for the past 3 years. Is it enough? No, it's never enough. We need to continue to do that. But you're right. I mean, brands and advertisers are, playing a very important role in the entire ecosystem here. And frankly, we believe we made, free-to-user business, through that. Not only does it have promotional value, it drives revenue, right?
Chee, you announced Starbucks. Can you talk about it at all? I mean, in America, I mean, other than medical marijuana dispensaries, it's all about Starbucks, right? So it's unbelievable, right? You're going to have the barristers as your DJs. Can you talk about that at all, or is that a little too early, or?
It is quite early. We just announced it earlier this week. The Starbucks partnership is right now in the US, but they are a strong brand. I think Starbucks has a very rich history with music, and it's about extending that relationship to new partners. With technology platforms like ours, I think they're also moving. So it's very, very early days. Besides that, we have partnerships with Sony PlayStations. But I think the key thing is it's a two-way conversation. As much as we talk a lot about helping artists to reach out to new fan base or creating new fan base, I think for brands that want to actually work with artists, it's really getting them to understand as well. Based on data insights that we have. On Spotify, you look at playlists of various genres, use cases. Now in the morning, in the morning when I actually get to work, there's a commute playlist. Now for brand partners who's actually looking at that particular segment, we are able to kind of reach them more effectively. So those are the kind of opportunities that's actually opening up for both the artists, creative community, as well as the brand partners.
Excellent. Jenny, I'm going to you. Twitter, brands. This sounds like a marriage made in heaven, artist.
It is indeed. Twitter generates over 1 billion tweets every 48 hours. So if you think about that volume, and again, that music and entertainment is driving most of that conversation, it's a huge opportunity for brands to get involved in that and to really help artists with that discovery. And one thing that I think that we're really good at is matching that brand organically with the artist and with the campaign. I always think about when I was a kid, it was really weird to see like a group sort of, you were considered a sellout, I think, I won't mention the time when I was a kid, but back then. And now it's like all the research that we've done, they don't even notice. It's so organic that it doesn't bother users. Users don't notice. But what's happening is we have brands then paying to promote that artist's tweets and that artist's content, and then that gets right at the top of everyone's timeline, and the discovery element is just completely expanded. So I think it's a natural marriage, like you said, but I do think further to what Dev was saying, it's all about rich content. So it does photo and video drive engagement up by at least 60% on Twitter, and I think that you have to first think about your content and what you're putting out there. And if you're putting out rich content, then it's easier to get brands involved. But it's a mistake to think you can just send, one simple tweet and that's going to generate something.
I think the message here, and the message is nothing's easy. There's not like a really short path to cash here, and there's not really a short path to success, right? And you're looking at more and more and more like what we look at, right? So say at Getty, we're seeing like certain sectors like newspapers and that maybe diminishing, right? But then we look at things where you have brand new media companies, like BuzzFeed, Vice, and all that are coming up and are playing this enormous new role, right? And going to what we just touched on very briefly, right? That the Foo Fighters they themselves took their own money and decided to do this series called Sonic's Highways, right? Well, it really didn't matter about them, say, going through the traditional ways that a band in the United States would go through by going to radio and such. What they did really is they went to HBO, they did this 8-week series featuring where they got influence from, where they really were passionate about these cities and the music and the artists they created. And what's interesting is the management company then very successfully put up their shows on sale, and they had to like add a whole other run of a tour because it was so successful. And this was literally like using a platform like HBO, right? Which you know is another, like, you know, they've now are breaking their ties with cable and becoming more of an OTT, right? Like where they're going over the internet. Is literally, this is really exciting times. And, you know, we, as I was saying earlier, we have Netflix, you know, you have YouTube, you have Amazon, you have all these great things right now that are literally, you know, basically in your toolkit that you can do besides all the wonderful people up here that are all these different channels on the ways that artists are breaking. And then what we don't have actually represented up here, but full disclosure, I'm a recovering record executive and a recovering concert promoter, is we don't have the live end up here, right? And again, an enormous amount of, you know, revenues out of that, but the revenues that can be generated again with brands and everything else, and the role that everybody up here plays, right, in the world of, as you were saying, you actually are a promoter, right, Dev?
I was just going to say that. So we do live, and I'll tell you why that is. So for a brand today, it's no longer important. I mean, I think the youth strategy is becoming the centerpiece of their world, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can talk to everyone else, but you have to talk to your core demographic of 12 to 20 or 18 to 25 or whatever. Music is their number one go-to strategy, only because youth, music, and brands are one eternal triangle. And we're seeing that every single day. I mean, we do this very successfully globally. You know, we have this thing called New Business that is a multi-$100 million business that we do, and we do it very successfully across brands. And all of them have the same agenda. They want to splice and dice the audience and go to them where they are and not expect that they're going to wake up in the morning and read a newspaper and see this advert. It doesn't work anymore, right? It's about real-time advertising. It's about real-time getting to these places where they are, whether they're listening to a song with a brand embrace in a Starbucks or a brand-fed tweet. It doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, if the brand is able to go to where the audience is sitting and consuming the one thing that is above everything else in their agenda, which is music, it's good. I mean, we do several deals. I mean, we've come to a point in brand partnerships today, Vince, at least in South Asia, where we're replacing big structured events and big structured live things and actually having them branded, right? So as Universal, we own the rights for Idol, Voice, so everything that comes out of there we do stuff with. But at the same time, parallelly, and they're obviously broadcast brands, what we're doing is we have our own similar-sized hunt for kids, which is completely brand-fed. In the beginning, when we brainstormed, we thought, you know, if you have a brand right over there, right in the middle of it, will people think that you're a sellout, like Jenny said? No, they don't care. The consumer has now come to a point where they believe that the brand is no longer thrusting themselves in their face, but is acting as an enabler to help them do what they normally couldn't. And that, I think, smart marketers in the last, you know, couple of years have figured out how to be that brand. And the minute you're able to do that, it's okay. I mean, we got 140,000 voices for a non-televised show fronted by an insurance company. I mean, everything's wrong, right? The construct just sounds crazy. But 140,000 voices, we cut it down to 1,000, 2 kids won. I truly believe that both of these kids are destined for, I mean, absolute fame and fortune because they're just incredible. But they came through a branded pipe. And they didn't care that they have to wear this little brand logo somewhere. Because to them, in their minds and their parents' minds, is that if this brand wasn't there and helping us find them and helping us curate, collate, produce, fly them all over the place, do all this promo shit, nothing would happen. You know, so the brands have now taken center stage where they're playing an incredibly important part certainly in music and entertainment, more and more and more. You know, and it's fine. No one cares anymore that a festival has a brand sitting right on top. I mean, can you imagine whatever, XYZ Coachella? No, it just wouldn't work in those parts of the world. But let me tell you, in our part of the world, it's very okay to have XYZ Enchanted Valley Carnival. No one cares. Because for them, it's this brand is pumping in some serious money, to bring world-class artists together and to have 20,000 people in this venue and give them a great experience. They care about experience much more than just the music alone. And if the brand can play that part rather intelligently without being forceful about their brand and say, my color and my shape and all of that, you're okay.
Well, one of the things I find, and a lot of people have felt that music no longer plays the role that it does with youth and such. And, full disclosure, I have a very young family, and I have a son that is actually is taking drum lessons at the Silver Lake Conservatory. He loves music, right? And it was really interesting. Years ago, I met a young guy named Sean Parker who had this president of this company called Facebook, and he told me that the number 2 thing after people meeting each other was that it was music, right? And music plays this enormous role, but now the outlets for music are so much more and so much more exciting, right? And it's this whole thing that the brands realize that. The research and everything that they do tells them that. If you look at what is the biggest music company in the world, it might be Apple. Right? And what Apple is doing, we don't know. But the interesting thing is what Steve did with the iPod to get to where Apple is not now, which could be eventually $1 trillion valuation luxury company, is pretty amazing. And this was all done with music. So listen, we got a couple of minutes, right? You have the experts up here. You have wonderful people. Do any of you have any questions? Any questions out there? You're all too scared to talk. Because in one of these person's pocket is a check for $1 million. And if you ask the right question, you'll get $1 million. Okay, well listen, I'm gonna leave with one anecdote from each person, right? Say something in 15 seconds, Christophe, that is happening at YouTube in music.
I think to be successful.
Oh, you can borrow his. Yeah.
I just want to talk about authenticity. I think to be successful on YouTube, music is important, but what's also important is having an authentic dialogue and be authentic to your fans, and success will follow.
Stuart.
Yeah, we are looking to integrate with the consumer platforms so that when the consumer comes into a venue, that they're going to drive the agenda of music. They're going to come straight in, feed the music to us, and they're going to be making that value of that song go up every day.
Excellent. Dev.
So I think for me, 15 seconds is very simple. A great song is a great song is a great song. Make great content. Be true to yourself. Don't bullshit anyone on that. Everything else will take care of itself. I mean, that is fundamentally what we believe at Universal Music.
Awesome. Jenny.
My 3 tips, absolutely authenticity. Number 1, be honest, be who you are in real life. Don't get forced into saying anything you wouldn't normally say. Be active. So, we always tell people 2 to 3 tweets a day. You can't send a tweet and then not tweet again for a year and expect to have great results. And be engaging. So engage with other users, follow, retweet, and do that rich content.
Chee.
I'll go last. There's never been a better time for music ever. I think there's an explosion going on. There's never been a more exciting time. You have new technologies that enables you to reach out to a global audience that you never had before, like 10, 15 years ago. So make full use of it. Understand that just focus on your creative works, and the world is your playground.
I'm going to tell you, I went running out here today. I had a playlist of AC/DC, Little John, Ludacris, Deadmau5, and Holy Ghost, and it was brilliant. And I'll tell you, he's right. Never better time to be in music. Music couldn't be better. I really want to thank all these people up here on the panel. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks, Vince.
Thanks, Vince.